I keep hearing people talk about Gen Z like they're lazy, entitled, impatient, or unwilling to work. But when I look at what this generation is actually walking into economically, I see something completely different. I see a generation being asked to play an old game under completely different rules. Gen Z didn't create this economy, they inherited it. And what they inherited is a world where almost every major step toward adulthood seems to cost more while feeling less secure. For previous generations, the basic formula was relatively easy to understand. Get an education, find a job, work hard, save some money, buy a house, build a career, and eventually retire. That formula was never perfect. Plenty of people struggled. Plenty of people were excluded from prosperity. But there was at least a believable path. For a lot of Gen Z, that path looks increasingly questionable. The cost of simply existing. The first problem is incredibly basic. Everything costs money. And increasingly, everything costs a lot of money. Rent, groceries, transportation, insurance, electricity, internet, phone service, healthcare, education, eating out, entertainment, even the little things that once made being broke tolerable aren't necessarily cheap anymore. When basic living expenses consume most of a paycheck, financial planning becomes almost impossible. People love telling young adults to save money, save for emergencies, save for retirement, save for a house, build an investment portfolio. But save what? If somebody earns $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and a massive percentage of that disappears into housing, food, transportation, taxes, insurance, debt, and basic necessities, there might not be much left to save. You can't budget your way around mathematics. There eventually comes a point where the problem isn't financial discipline. The problem is income versus expenses. Housing has become the wall. Housing may be one of the biggest economic problems facing Gen Z. For many young adults, moving out isn't simply a rite of passage anymore. It's a major financial undertaking. You can work full-time and still struggle to qualify for an apartment. You need deposits, application fees, moving expenses, furniture, utilities, good credit. And sometimes landlords want applicants earning several times the monthly rent. So young people end up living with parents longer, moving in with multiple roommates, renting tiny spaces, or spending enormous portions of their income just to have somewhere to sleep. Then society turns around and mocks them for living at home. That's what I find strange. We dramatically increase the cost of independence and then criticize young people for not becoming independent quickly enough. Home ownership is an even bigger challenge. The traditional American idea was that renting was temporary. Eventually, you saved enough money for a down payment and purchased a home. But when housing prices rise faster than wages, the down payment itself becomes a moving target. You save $10,000, the house gets more expensive. You save another $10,000. Interest rates change. Insurance gets more expensive. Property taxes increase. Maintenance costs rise. The finish line keeps moving. College became a gamble. Gen Z was also raised in the shadow of the idea that college was the ticket into the middle class. Go to school. Get the degree. Get the good job. Except college can be incredibly expensive, and a degree doesn't automatically produce economic security. That creates a terrible decision for young people. Do I borrow enormous amounts of money to improve my chances in the labor market? Or do I avoid debt and potentially limit my career opportunities? Neither choice guarantees success. That's the problem. A young person can make what society considers the responsible decision and still end up struggling.